Okay. Okay, so I think the video is working, and this microphone is working, yes? Okay. So this is a hilarious day of a hilarious week for me to be giving this talk, because this is like one of the most stressful weeks I've had in a long time. So today the OR and the clinic schedule got completely overbooked. So I had a full clinic booked on top of a full OR. So I was supposed to be in 2 places at once. And this week I'm moving. And this week my tenant I have a rental property, has decided to break the lease and move out, and the door broke over there. So I was like, this is really funny, because I'm going to show up to this stress management talk like completely frazzled. And, I was like, okay, well, I guess it's very timely, because I can show you guys one of my first things is going to be biofeedback, and I actually have a gadget here, so it's going to be perfect, because I'm going to put it on myself and show you how it works. So anyway, we're going to start with what's very critically important here, which is I'm going to talk about a lot of strategies that are relevant to managing depression, anxiety, and stress in your life. Please, by no means, this does not mean if you're somebody who takes medication or who sees a counselor or who does some sort of different strategy, this does not mean you stop those things when you leave here, okay? Like, I'm not saying you do any of these things in place of your medicine or your doctor or your counselor or whatever. These are just ideas and things that may be helpful to you. So don't change your treatment plan on your own. This is also not a to-do list. I've given presentation on this many times over the last 10 years or so, and sometimes people have come up to me afterwards and stated, I'm so stressed out now because I have to go do these 20 things to feel less stressed. And my to-do list is already extremely long, and I just can't handle it. So, don't worry about that. Just want to be conscious of the time. Okay. And then the other thing I like to point out is, even though I probably have a room full of stressed people because you guys are coming to a talk on stress management, I would like to point out that you're here. You have navigated your life so far to reach this chair in this room, and it means you're doing it. So whatever you've been doing until now has been something that has been working for you. So maybe it's not optimal, maybe it's not your best choice, maybe it's not your favorite choice, maybe you wish you felt differently, but you still made it to these chairs in this room today, and you're obviously doing something that is working. So don't forget that you already have resources inside yourself that you're already using. Yes.
Not everybody is stressed. Some are here just for prevention, I hope.
Excellent. I'm very happy that not everyone is stressed. It's rare that I meet a human who is not stressed. So I think that's excellent. And prevention, we were going to talk about that for sure. So let's continue on. Okay, audience participation. How do you know when you're stressed? Anybody has any? Yes. Oh, yes, you need to the microphone.
Can't sleep.
Can't sleep, okay. Anyone else want to volunteer how they know when they're stressed?
Yep. I feel tightness in my neck and shoulders.
Yes, so that's a common one, right? Neck and shoulders. I'm feeling that now, actually. Now that you mention it, I'm thinking that's a good one. Okay, anyone else? No one else has one. Okay, well, I listed some of mine here. The first sign for me is almost always the eye twitch. So the outside of my eye starts like fluttering or something, and I'm like rubbing it, and I'm like, that's so annoying. Ooh, clue. Maybe I should pay attention. Something is going on with me. A lot of the ones I hear in my office all the time, people are coming in feeling like they have a hormone problem, and then they're listing these things. I have cravings, I'm forgetful, I'm feeling overwhelmed all the time, and I'm pretty sure it's my hormones, and a lot of times, actually, it's really just stress. Other things that lots of people do are they just feel kind of overwhelmed and they don't want to deal with their life, so we go home and we just zone out in front of the TV, or we drink too much, or we sit on Facebook for 3 hours, or, we just kind of want to check out. Maybe it's bigger and you feel like, gosh, I don't want anything bad to happen, but I just wish I could vaporize myself and, just kind of be gone for a while. Or maybe I want to run off to, live in a shack at the beach and be completely off the grid, right? We have these feelings. And then the most important one, I think, which is relevant to what I'm going to sort of summarize with in the end, is that we stop being kind. And by that I mean we snap at our children, we yell at our husband or our wife, the people are pulling out in front of us in traffic and we're like, ah, When you have some reserve and you're nice and relaxed, someone cuts you off in traffic and you're like, wow, geez, that guy's in a hurry. Sip your coffee, keep driving, right? Or if your kids have their socks all over the floor again, you're like, okay, well, I guess I'm picking up socks today. And it's not like, yo, kids, So we lose our ability to be kind. And I feel like that is really one of the things I want to emphasize, that we have long to-do lists, we have many stressors, we have kids to raise, we have families to support, we have jobs to do, but really one of the most important things we as humans do as being humans on this earth is to be kind to each other and to be kind to ourselves. And so as soon as you notice that you're yelling at people or you're beating yourself up or you're flying off the handle, something, I think that is really a red flag. And it's very common, right? We see this all around in our lives everywhere. And so I put a picture of the diva there. That's my dog.
That's what I asked.
To remind me to mention that pets are on the list too, right? So it's like you trip over the dog and you're like, anyway, it's not just kids, pets, anything. Being kind to all creatures. Okay, so I'm going to demonstrate this gadget. So we're going to do 20 strategies. Some of them are very obvious, things you've heard before. Some of them are more conceptual, things to think about. Let's see if my demonstration is a success here. Okay, so this little gadget is a biofeedback thing. You can order it on the internet. And let's see, it should sense me here, and it's probably going to show that I'm red right now. Maybe not. Let's see what it says. Oh, yes, okay. So it's sensing my heart rate and how erratic it is. And then this thing is telling me how to breathe. So I'm going to follow this breathing thing. And I practice this a lot, so it should change quickly, hopefully. So now it's blue, right? Now it's red again, see? Okay, so now it's like, no, you're still stressed, lady. You're still standing in front of a crowd. So, you get the idea, though. So this thing will, basically, it's tracking my heart rate, my pulse, and how erratic my pulse is. It's telling me right now I'm not synchronized with a good biorhythm at all. So if I were to sit here now and not be in front of a group of people and breathe and follow this thing for a few minutes, this should change from blue to green. The way that you make it work when you're not standing in front of a crowd is basically you think of a time when you were relaxed and happy. So here's me in the boat. This is a giant gray whale, and that was like about the coolest moment of my whole life, right? And that's in Baja, California. And so you imagine this, and or a time when you were feeling relaxed and happy. See, look, just telling that story, I went to blue. Look at See, because I practiced this at home. So, and then you follow this. It goes up and down, and it shows how you follow to breathe. And then as you do it, you want to imagine that you're breathing in and out through your heart or through your whole skin, not just, filling your lungs to follow this thing. When I first started doing it, I was like, it's not working, But then you follow it, and it gives you a tone to tell you that you're doing well, and the bars go up, and you can do it for however long you want. So these things are inexpensive. They're less than $100 on the internet. You can carry it around with you anywhere. Keep it in your car. I keep mine at my desk. If I know I'm going into a surgery or I'm feeling stressed about something, I can just use it. And see, now I'm talking about surgery and my desk, and it went to red, right? So it's pretty interesting, right? So this is something that's very much hands-on, easy to use, and the more you practice it, the easier it is to do it when you don't necessarily have this gadget in your hand.
There's also one where you can connect it to your phone, and it'll record your sessions on the phone.
Yes,
Pretty
so
cool.
that is an excellent point. This is an old thing from like 5 or 10 years ago. I got mine from the Heart Math Institute, but now I'm sure they have like an adapter that goes to your phone apps or something.
What were you attached to?
It was attached to my earlobe.
To your earlobe.
Yeah,
That's
they
right.
have some that go on your finger. Yeah, so this is pretty cool. All right. Okay, here's one everybody's probably heard of. The reason I bring this up is because I went to an integrative health conference in Sedona last October. And when I was there, there was several psychiatrists. One was from Columbia, I think, and they were talking about how when they have psychiatric patients coming in now for depression, for anxiety, even some of their more serious cases like schizophrenics and bipolar, people who really have serious psychiatric illnesses, they always, if the patient needs to start on a pharmaceutical medication, they absolutely start them, but they also are using very specific vitamin regimens for all these patients as well. So they start them out. Some patients who they don't feel need to start on pharmaceutical medication, they start on these vitamins right off the bat. And they found that a lot of people who start on vitamin supplementation don't need as high a doses of the medication, or they improve even without it if they were a mild case to begin with. Yes.
Is the water and the magnesium to help them have better bowel movements?
No. So these are the ones that they mentioned at the conference were the top ones that I have listed there. So vitamin D3, they wanted to target a blood level of around 50. Most of us are in extremely vitamin D deficient this time of year. When I'm checking people's levels, I'm seeing numbers like 6, 8, 10. I saw 16 the other day, and I thought, wow, this person's not so bad. We need to expose half our naked body to the sun every day for 30 minutes to get enough vitamin D, okay? None of us do that. Yes?
And really, at this latitude during the winter, you could be outside all day naked, and
You got it.
couldn't get enough.
So unless you live near the equator, truthfully, most of us are vitamin D deficient. And so that is definitely almost a universal problem in this state and at this latitude exactly. The thing that I found most interesting, which I was already taking vitamin D, the thing I found most interesting was they talked a lot about omega-3s and the effect of omega-3s in the brain. And they were specifically talking about DHA and EPA. So if you look on a lot of omega-3 supplements, it'll say high dose supplement 2,000 milligrams per day. Then you turn it around and you read the back and it says, ALA, 1,000, other fatty acids, 500, DHA 200, EPA 200. So the idea is the DHA and EPA are the most important ones as far as the activity in the brain for helping these patients who are coming in with the feeling depressed and anxious and whatnot. So I went to Costco and I sleuthed out everything that they had there, and I found this one, which is 720 milligrams of EPA DHA per serving. I keep this in my fridge. We all go to the fridge when we're stressed. We open the door and we're like, there's nothing to eat in there. And I'm like, my fish oil. Okay, done. There you go. And actually, I have to say, I do actually notice a difference with this. So I don't know that everybody would, but they did really talk about at that conference the importance of this. Also,
I just was researching this yesterday,
yes.
and I found this is so not trivial on my part, but I was just researching this yesterday. I was looking up for products, and no one mentioned Costco. So I'm super excited. Where at Costco? Because I look in the vitamin aisle.
It's in the,
It's frozen, right? Or it's in the chilled section, no?
No, it's
No?
actually in front of the pharmacy, in that aisle in front of the pharmacy on the right-hand side, not chilled, but it tastes better chilled, so I keep it in the fridge.
Yeah, okay.
Then B vitamins, B complex vitamins. The reason I have water on here is because most of our brain is actually made up of water, and so when we are dehydrated, it really affects our brain a lot more so than in a lot of our other tissues. So there's a guy that's written a book called You're Not Sick, You're Thirsty, which is sort of interesting. But anyway, the bottom line is we can all benefit from water, our brains especially. And then magnesium I have here because they mentioned that at the conference for people who are feeling very anxious and having trouble sleeping. Magnesium is something that is very harmless that you just take at bedtime, and it helps sort of calm your nervous system. So people always say, well, what vitamins do you take? And I say, well, I take a multivitamin, I take extra D, the fish oil, and I take magnesium at bedtime. So I do think that helps me personally, and I do advise all of my postpartum patients usually to try taking these. I do think it helps support people. Is it the cure for all of our problems? Probably not, but certainly you're not going to go wrong with these. Okay, yes. Geez, the back row is really enthusiastic. Okay.
About the B vitamins.
Yes.
Do you just get that through your multivitamin, or
I do get it
That's-
through my multivitamin.
not very much in a multivitamin?
It's not
usually.
very much, right. So personally, I've taken extra, and I don't feel that it makes a difference for me. I have patients who, and they talked about at this conference, how a lot of people are B12 and folate deficient, and so if you have a deficiency and you replace the B vitamins, people are feeling much better with that.
And is that magnesium like a low enough dose that it doesn't affect people's bowels? Because a lot of people take magnesium to help them have bowel movements.
Yes, so it's variable person to person. I think some people are very sensitive to magnesium. Certainly if you take high doses, this is a very low dose. If you take high doses, it can definitely give you diarrhea or help with constipation, but I think some people are just more sensitive to it than others. Yes. Okay, acupuncture, everybody's probably heard of this one. It can calm the nervous system or energize depending on where the needles are placed. Some people have a needle phobia, or they find the needles painful. You can have acupressure or massage instead. And then the main point of acupuncture is I've had people say, I'd really like to try it, but I'm just afraid of needles, and I go there and I had it one time and it really hurt, and then I was afraid to go back, and I was told it would really help me, but I was laying there and I was like, oh God, when is this going to be over? And I'm doing this acupuncture for my anxiety, and I'm just dreading the appointments. Okay. It's not for you if you're dreading the appointments, all right? So I tried acupuncture. I was feeling particularly anxious. I went there. I hated it. I went 3 or 4 times, and I was like that person I just described. oh, when is this going to be over? Oh. Okay, my sister was feeling anxious. She went, she fell asleep on the table. She loves it. Now she goes every week. Okay, so, everybody's going to have a different experience. It can be very helpful, but you don't want to force yourself so that, you're not going to be like, Dr. Wolf said acupuncture, I got this, okay. Only if it's helpful. There are many, many acupuncturists in town here who deal with this all the time. So if you feel like this is something that you would like to try, I'm totally for it. Yes, ma'am.
I'm a little older than you are, and I used it for hot flashes, and it was great.
Yes, so you can use it for many, many different things. Some people use it for almost everything. I've heard people using it for allergies, for menopause symptoms, for constipation, for depression, for migraines. I send lots of my patients over to have it for migraines. So yes, exactly. If you find it relaxing and useful, then it's excellent. Okay, this one is going to be quick. This is primarily for seasonal affective disorder. It used to be that these light boxes were these things that you sit. Oh, I'm going off the video. See how I did that? You have to sit on the table in front of you, and you sit there, and it's supposed to blast you, and you're like, okay. Now they have these decorative ones where you can, put them in your office or in your living room, and you're getting the light box therapy. It's important for us here. We live in the dark a lot. We go to work in the dark. We're under fluorescent lighting. Then we go home in the dark in the middle of winter, and we're just like, ugh. The light box therapy can really be useful for the seasonal affective disorder, or if you are someone who's feeling particularly down in times of winter. So I'm going to be fast on that one so we can get to some of the juicier ones. Okay. Counseling, we've all heard of this one. I would like to propose with this slide that by counseling, I don't necessarily mean going to sit in front of one person and talk about your childhood and how awful everything was and then get some sort of therapy and then leave. Absolutely, you can have individual counseling. Lots of people do that. There are hundreds of different techniques for counseling. There are many different forms of counseling. It can be one-on-one. You can go with a friend. You can go with your spouse. You can go to groups. You can do a Bible study. You can participate in a class. The most important thing is that you find it useful. So I've had lots of patients tell me, Dr. Wolf, I tried counseling and it just didn't work for me. And I say, well, what did you try? Well, I went to one person for 2 visits and I just didn't find it useful. Okay, that's fair. But keep in mind that many counselors have very different personalities, just like different doctors have personalities, different pet groomers have different personalities, different cashiers have different personalities. And so finding the right forum, the right environment in which to sort of hash out whatever is troubling you and really having a connection with that person is critically important. Shop around. I personally find the most useful type of counseling for me to be attending classes. So I've gone to classes on, the one I did most recently last year was something called Mindful Self-Compassion. And there were, 8 or 10 of us there, and the class was on learning how to have compassion for yourself. And in the context of the class, the person leading it was, I think, a psychologist, and there was a lot of sort of like sharing about different topics, and, but I went to learn about that topic, and I left feeling like, wow, I've just had 8 counseling sessions, I feel great. So sometimes I think the word counseling shuts people down. And I do agree that if you've had a bad experience or one that didn't really help, that's fair, but just maybe be open to different forms of counseling. Okay. Everybody hates this slide because they think I'm going to tell them to stop drinking coffee. Okay. So, a very common patient I see in my office is a stressed out woman who I do OBGYN, by the way, so when I'm telling stories, I'm talking about women for the most part. A very common patient I see is one who comes in and says something like, Dr. Wolf, I'm so tired in the morning, and then I'm just like, I drink coffee and tea just to kind of wake up. One of my patients this week said, I need coffee just to have a pulse in the morning. And then, I finally, then I take some supplements, these energy supplements, and this fizzy drink that's got all these energy products in it, and then I just feel like I can't concentrate, and so, I'm taking this ADD medicine, and it really helps me, and then what happens is, throughout the day, I just feel like I'm getting more and more anxious, and I don't really have anything to be anxious about, but I'm like really stressed, and then, I go home, and I try to watch the news, and I get really scared, and I think all these terrible things are happening in the world, and the politics these days, and what's going to happen, and then I'm just so jacked up that I can't sleep, and I'm really here because I want you to give me something to help me sleep. What do you think you could give me? Can you give me some sleeping pills or something? Because I really just can't sleep. And I'm like, okay, yes, I see the problem. Not sure it's sleeping pills that you need. So the point of this slide is we do a lot to our own selves to jack up our own anxiety. And then we feel the crash of that sometimes, which then feels like a depression. So I have listed things here that, just pay attention to how many stimulants are in your daily routine. How much of your routine is unnecessarily jacking you up, right? I'm not saying I would never tell anyone to give up their morning coffee. I love my morning coffee. But do we really need all of that stuff? Where can you ratchet back on some of these things? Because what happens is we jack up our system, then it crashes, right? A lot of times people have trouble sleeping because they've just completely wired themselves throughout the day. So I don't want to give anybody specific, like do this or don't do that, but just pay attention. Look at what your habits are and where can you make a change with that? Yes.
A couple of things that I've come across and that I know really affects me. One is sugar.
Yes.
And it's, when you start looking for the added sugar, holy cow, it's out there everywhere. But the other thing is screens, whether it's your computer or a TV. I love what I heard the other day. It's called up-to-the-minute anxiety.
Yes, that's excellent. Yes, so I have one of my slides coming up has what I call the screen-sky ratio. So how much time are you spending looking at screens compared to looking at the sky? Because that absolutely affects your well-being and your stress level. So yes, screens would be an excellent one. I would put that on here under violence and fear. So a lot of us are like scrolling for the next, oh my gosh, did you see that terrible thing that happened? Oh my gosh, we're sort of like addicted to that high. Okay, I'm not going to belabor this one because we've all heard that what you eat matters. However, I would like to point out that 90% of the serotonin receptors are in the gut. Serotonin, who knows what serotonin is? Okay, so serotonin is a chemical in your brain that helps with your mood and your well-being. And when we take, so the biggest class of antidepressant medications are called selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor. You don't have to know that, but basically what it does is they increase the level of serotonin in your brain to help you feel better. Isn't it interesting that 90% of the receptors for serotonin are in your intestine, not in your brain? Has anybody heard of that? That's the truth. So the point of this slide is that what you eat matters because the things that help you feel good, they're more in here than they are up here, right? So, so I've listed here basically the idea with what you are eating in terms of feeling well is exactly what this young lady in the front here said, which is less sugar, more nutrients, less garbage, more nutrients. And I've listed nutrient-dense foods there as some examples. and everybody can, there's volumes on this, but the thing that people find to be new information is this serotonin in the intestine, not the brain. So I'll let you guys figure out what exactly you want to eat, but what you eat really does matter. And now, my favorite picture. Aww. Okay. I'm not going to belabor this one either. However, because I used to go to these presentations on this stuff years ago, and everybody said, get more sleep. And I would sit in the audience and I would think, if one more person tells me to get more sleep, I'm just going to be like, really? I can't go to these anymore, because if I had time to get more sleep, I would be getting more sleep. I'm just doing the best I can, I'm like hanging on by a thread here, people. I don't have time to sleep. Okay, so the reason I point this out is that sleep deprivation is used in the military as a form of torture, right? We've heard of this. So basically, they don't have to do anything to you with sharp, pokey stuff like we see on the scary movies. All they have to do is keep you awake. And then that's one of the most common forms of torture. So we are all torturing ourselves, literally, when we're not getting enough rest. And none of us, very few of us, I won't say none, very few of us are getting enough rest. Lots of us are putting ourselves into what I call sleep-induced comas, using over-the-counter medications, sleep medications, alcohol. Very, very different experience than actually having restful sleep. Now, we have kids at home, we have 2-year-olds, we have dogs, we have responsibilities. I mean, I'm up at night working. It's not always possible to get good rest, but it is important. And so if you are someone who's really struggling, you're feeling depressed, you're feeling anxious, you're feeling stressed, one thing you can look at is, can I rearrange my life in such a way that I can improve my rest? In 2014, I took a 6-month sabbatical from my job. And, my job involves being up at night and doing surgery and delivering babies and all that. And I would say I did not experience restful sleep until 3 months into it. So it took me 3 months of not having to get up at night for things before I actually had one night of what I experienced as restful sleep. And I woke up and I was like, whoa, what just happened? I feel so good. I just can't even believe it. And then I was like, okay. So this is not an easy thing. This is not something like you're just going to go home and be like, well, all right, I'm going to go to bed at 8:15 and call it good. But our brains really do function optimally with good rest. And so anywhere that you can see that you're not getting rest will be a clue as to why you might be feeling crappy. Okay, this next one, where's the microphone? Fill your tank. Okay, so what do you guys do to feel?
Ride my bike.
To ride your bike, excellent. So by fill your tank, I mean, if you're exasperated and you are like working on your last shred of energy, you're just like holding on by the skin of your teeth. What would you do to sort of nourish yourself or revive yourself? Ride a bike. Okay, anybody else have any other ones? No one else revives themselves. Go outside. Okay. All right, so it can be anything. So it doesn't have to be a huge big deal. It could be music or just sitting in silence for a few minutes. I like to sit in silence for a couple of minutes and use my little gadget there, and I'm like, I think of the whale, and I'm okay. And I'm like, all right. We don't always have time to go and take a 2-hour hike or ride our bike or whatever, but it can be something that only takes a couple of minutes. Maybe you're going to snuggle your dog or hug a friend, or some people find a lot of nourishment from being with other people. Other people find nourishment from being alone. It doesn't have to be a humongous, expedition to do these things, but some sort of little ritual, if you can plug that into your day, or you have a go-to thing, maybe it's a go-to 2-line prayer or something that you say to yourself, that you can, if you're feeling stressed, you can bring yourself around. Okay, so this one, I learned this from the class I took, and that is this class I was telling you guys about last year, this mindful self-compassion. What they said there was that we have a lot of experience calming other people down and comforting other people, but we have not really brainstormed ways to soothe our own selves. So they had us do all sorts of different exercises there as to when I'm feeling stressed, depressed, anxious, panicked, overwhelmed, how do I soothe myself, essentially? And some of the examples they had, so I put Linus here because Linus uses his blanket, right? And we as adults, we're not going to usually be carrying around blankets. Maybe we will, but we could have a touchstone or something that means something to you, that when you feel that thing, it reminds you of something calming, or you use that to get yourself in a good state. The picture works, right? Like the whale photo. Even when I was talking about it, my gadget changed. That was pretty cool, right? Maybe it's a thought or a memory, or it could be some sort of phrase. So the one they taught us in the class was to put your hand either on your heart or on your belly and just say to yourself, okay, I am safe. Like, oh yeah, I am. And then you realize, oh yes, I am sort of spiraling out of control here. Do I really have a reason to be doing that? Actually, I'm safe and nothing bad is actually happening. It's all created in my mind. And so that was a really good one. And it sounds a little hokey, but actually it works really quite well. So these are just ideas, and maybe you have a picture you could keep at your desk or in your wallet or something, or just even this little phrase there. That's a good one. Okay, now.
I think another one is Bob Marley's song, Every Little Thing is Gonna Be All Right.
Sure, there you go. Yes, you can use whatever works for you. And there were, 8 or 10 people in the class, and each person came up with a different thing that they themselves found to be useful. So it's something you've got to kind of brainstorm for yourself. Okay, this one doesn't have a number. This is the middle here, so I just wanted to throw this out there. Pardon me for 1 second. So of course, those of us who have experienced depression or sadness, or even that sensation of, gosh, I don't want anything bad to happen, but I just want to vaporize myself for a moment here now. Isolation is a very dangerous thing, and sometimes if we're having a particularly bad day and we're sitting alone by ourselves, and it's like, okay, well, maybe things would be better if I just weren't here. And so suicidal thoughts and suicide is a real thing. It's true, everyone at one point in their lives has had a thought of, gosh, maybe things would be easier if I just didn't have to deal with this, One of my friends recently said, I was driving to work and I just thought, gosh, if I just got hit by a truck right now, everything would be better, So not like we sit there and plot out how we're going to harm ourselves, but these thoughts come up sometimes, especially if we're feeling depressed. And so the easiest way I have heard to get around this is to make a pact with somebody that no matter what, never, ever, ever, under any circumstances, are you going to harm yourself or drive into traffic or drive off a bridge or whatever. And my sister and I made a pact to each other when we were in our 20s. And, unfortunately, she does struggle with depression more so than me, but to some degree, we both do from time to time. And we have mentioned to each other that at times when we felt sad or down and we've had these scary thoughts, the thing that has stopped us from going any further is that we promised each other we wouldn't do it. So this sounds like, oh gosh, that's for extreme cases. But the thing is, you never know when that is going to hit you, that you're like, gosh, this is an extreme moment for me. It can come out of nowhere. So if you have someone who you can make a promise with, or you have a friend, or you have anybody who's mentioned that they were suicidal, this is a really good thing to suggest to them. Okay, now, everybody stand up for a second. If you've ever come to my talks before, you know we always do this. Okay, we're just going to twist back and forth like this. And then just try not to be too, like, robotic about it. Just kind of let your arm swing. Who thinks that feels good? Yeah, all right. Okay, we're just going to do it for a couple more seconds. And then all we're going to do is just kind of stand up straight. Shrug your shoulders a little bit. Breathe in and out. Sit down. Easy, right? We just did this one. Who feels worse than they did 20 seconds ago? Anyone? Motion sickness. Okay, all right. Yeah, so again, back to the serotonin idea. Movement that's not frantic, hurried, intense, extreme, mandatory, but gentle movement releases serotonin in our brains. Serotonin is the thing that all these medications are trying to increase. We just released serotonin in our brains literally just now doing that little 10-second thing. And we can feel it, right? We feel good. We feel better. We're like, yes, I feel good. Okay. So does that mean you should twist and not take your medicine? No. But movement that's gentle and easy and feels good does release the serotonin in our brain, and it does really help us. Here's my screen-sky ratio. So movement outside magnifies your sense of well-being as opposed to movement staring at your TV. But any movement will help. The key is that it should feel comfortable and easy. I have people who tell me, I exercise every day. I go to the gym, I pump iron, I do the Stairmaster for 2 hours, and I just feel terrible. You're like, yes, okay. You have to think, like, is the movement that it's one thing to be training for some sort of a fitness event. You're training for a marathon. You have to put in this time. You're going to have some benefit from that. But what I'm talking about is movement that anyone can do. So different from a fitness goal, something that's gentle, easy, it feels good to you. And here's us out hiking. Look, even the dog is smiling, right? He's like, yeah, we're doing our movement. We're feeling good. I just think that picture is so funny, right? But it can be 1 minute. You're feeling stressed, you're feeling tired, you stand up at your desk, you twist back and forth. You can do it in the bathroom stall if you feel embarrassed. Easy. Okay, this is another one I learned from the class. So my sister used to tell me this all the time. No one understands me. I just feel so depressed because I'm in this life all by myself. No one understands me. No one gets me. No one tries to, no one's here for me. I said, I'm here for you. Well, you're on the other end of the phone and you're miles away, and even when I explain things to you, you just don't get me. And I got to thinking about this, and then they brought it up in the class I took, and the fact of the matter is, she's absolutely right. Nobody understands her, and nobody understands me, and nobody understands any one of you, because you are literally the only human that has had your cumulative experiences. So if you have had a baby and you talk to someone else who had a baby, you might bond and say, yeah, hey, I understand that particular experience. Or if you're parenting a child, you might understand that particular experience. Or if you touched a whale in Baja, California, you might understand that particular experience. But your whole life altogether, no one else in this entire universe has experienced that thing. No one will ever understand you. It's not possible. And so we had this discussion, and she's like, oh, well, I understand me. I'm here for me. And people say all the time, nobody helps me. Nobody shows up for me. I have to do everything. It's always me, me, me. I'm always doing everything. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. That's good, actually, because you are always there for yourself, right? You're always with yourself. You're the only one who understands you, and so you're perfectly positioned to handle all of your problems. I mean, it was really this liberating idea. So I put it here just to get you guys to maybe think about this, you know? Is it really such a bad thing that no one understands you and that you're the only one here for yourself? In fact, it's true. I think a lot of times people get hung up on, you know, my spouse is supposed to support me, my spouse is supposed to understand me, my sister is supposed to help me, my friend is supposed to be here for me, and they're just not. If we let go of that idea and we're like, hey, you know what? I am on this. I am here for me. I got this. You know, just something to think about. Questions on that one? Everybody's like, oh, that's kind of heavy. Okay. All right, you're going to love this next one. Okay. Now you can't read that. Okay. So, who has a to-do list? Who has a to-do notebook? Whose list spans more than one page? Okay. Whose to-do list is like half in their head and half on the paper? Okay. So as I was making this slide on Tuesday, I said, oh, I know, I'll just put my to-do list. So I started typing it. Okay, now you can't read it because there's so many things on there that you can't read it. But anyway, there's this whole thing. They're bulleted, and in fact, I had to stop typing because I ran it like it wouldn't let me put any more without it going into my title. Okay? So the thing is, how much of this is self-inflicted? Meaning, if you look at your list, what's actually mandatory on there? Is there anything on your list where you're like, if I don't do this thing, the world will end, my life will crumble? Yeah, maybe there's one or two things, but on the whole long list, really? So let's look at mine. I have email real estate agent, call insurance company, get a king sheet set. I just got a king mattress so the dog can sleep on the bed with us. Okay, but I don't have a king sheet set. Exercise, walk the dog, pay the bills, get a birthday and a baby gift from my friend who just had a baby, look at flights from Minnesota, do my office charts, be on call, return this thing I bought from REI that doesn't fit, check on my friend Leslie, study for my French class, take a shower, do the laundry, get the transmission fluid fixed in my car, pack up my apartment because we're moving, take the stuff to Goodwill, give the clinic changes to Joe, my manager, get my eyebrows waxed, change my address, get the wasp traps because there's some sort of wasp infestation at one of my places, and take the recycling. Is there anything on there that if I didn't do on Tuesday, my world would end? Right, so I've highlighted be on call because that's my job and I do need to show up for that. So that's one thing that I had to do on Tuesday. Do I have to? Could I just let the dog out in the yard and let it back in?
We'll use that as an option.
Okay. It's not a nice one, but I mean, this list is mostly things I have created for myself to do that I feel busy about. I don't actually have to do any of those things on Tuesday. So the reason there's blanks there is because my policy with to-do lists is to select 1, 2, or 3 what I call do or die items for the day, and I pin my success on did I do those 1, 2, or 3 items. So the first item was be on call. I had to be on call at 6 p.m. I managed to do that. Yes. 1. Number 2 was make slide presentation because I'm going to show up here without a slide presentation on Thursday and I'm going to have to wing it. Okay, I probably could, but easier if I have the slides. So that was number 2. And number 3 was make a dinner plan. I wanted to prioritize my 1 or 2 hours that I had with my family that evening. And so over all these other things, I said, I got to make a slide presentation. I have to show up to work and I want to have dinner with my family. So I better come up with something for us to eat. That's it. So on my list, I did 3 things. I didn't shower. I didn't do the laundry. I didn't get the wasp traps. And you know what? Here we are. It's Thursday and I'm crushing it, right? It's okay. I don't have to. I think a lot of times we look at this list and we're just like, the list. But really we've inflicted these things upon ourselves. They're not all mandatory. Okay, Where's my screen lady? Okay, social media is optional. Now, sometimes I find that if I look at social media, if I look at Facebook, I feel neutral. I'm like, oh yeah, look, so-and-so had a baby, and look, that person went to Tibet, and wow, this person made Oscar the Grouch cupcakes, and wow, cool. Okay, moving on. And sometimes I find that when I look at it, I feel really depressed and I feel like a total failure. I mean, I'm looking at the thing and I'm like, wow, gosh, every person on here is just more beautiful. Their kids are better behaved. They have better relationships. They're more adventurous. They're having more fun. They have more love in their lives. They're in better shape than me. They have better attitudes than me. And they're just like out skiing and having fun, and everything's perfect, and I just didn't even shower today. Like, really? Yeah, why can't I do it right, And I think that when we spend a lot of time looking at what other people are doing, especially on social media where people are posting one moment in time, their best moment of the whole month or whatever, right? We look at that and we're like, God, how are they so in love and we're just like struggling, We're like, how are their kids all wearing matching outfits and mine don't even have clothes on, like, God. So we don't have to look at this. We can turn it off, If you're looking at it and you're neutral and you're happy, great, no problem. But if you're looking at it and you just feel like everyone else is doing so much better than me, just turn it off. It's not true, right? We don't need to feed ourselves with this idea of everyone else is doing it better than me. And it's very insidious. It kind of creeps up on you and you don't really realize it. But just pay attention if you're looking at, your Instagram or whatever, and how do you feel? Do you feel neutral? Do you feel happy, or do you feel negative? Okay, who knows Byron Katie? Who's ever heard of Byron Katie? Nobody? Wow. Yeah, okay, so if you've never heard of Byron Katie, you should read that book right there called Loving What Is. And I would say her stuff, probably more than any other like self-help book you might read, has really helped me. So she's really all about loving what is, accepting what's happening as what's supposed to be happening. And one of her things that she talks about is this here, which is when she looked around, she could only find 3 types of business in the world. One is yours, one is mine, and one is God's. And whose business are you in? Much of the stress we have in our lives comes from mentally living out of our own business, so living in other people's business, trying to police what other people are doing. So this is like how much of your stress is caused by what other people are doing, what your coworkers are doing, what your spouse is doing, what your kids are doing, what the person in line in front of you in Target is doing. We're just like, yeah, there they go. They're doing that thing again. My kids are supposed to pick up their socks and my husband is supposed to, fix the light bulb, and he's not supposed to come home and watch TV. He's supposed to help me. And we have this long list of things of what other people are supposed to be doing. And if you watch your life and you watch how much stress you're feeling, how many people feel like other people are causing their stress? I see a lot of like, okay. What if you just stopped policing everybody and just did your thing? It's like an outrageous idea. Because we just have this idea that if that person would only do this thing better or right, if they would just do this right, I wouldn't feel stressed. Okay. Can you see how that maybe as soon as that person does that thing right, someone else is going to not be doing this other thing right. It's never going to get there. So to the extent, and her stuff is really great, it's all about who are you paying attention to? Are you paying attention to yourself or to what other people are doing? Sorry, yes.
How do you reconcile that with having children?
Yeah, very, very tricky. So you have to police your children to some degree. And I would say you have to police your children to some degree. Are your children the only people that are doing things wrong that are stressing you out? Yeah, so take the low-hanging fruit. And I will be done on time, believe it or not. I know you don't believe me, but I'm going to be. Okay, so this one I just put up here. We're terrible at saying no to things. We just always say things like, oh, yeah, maybe I'll try to be there if I can, or I can't be there because, and then we fill in with some sort of excuse. It's really easy. The thing that I always say is people ask me to do stuff or go places or do things, and I say, oh my gosh, you guys, you know what? I'm up to my ears in owls right now, and I just cannot dealio. I'm going to have to get back to you on that. I mean, that's so ridiculous, right? But did I just like totally win? I don't have to do that thing that they just asked me, right? They're just like, what, owls? What are you talking about? You can't, okay. Yeah, you're having a psychotic break. We'll see you later. Anyway, you don't have to feel guilty about just declining things. Just come up with like a catchy way to get out of it. And I don't feel bad when I say, hey, I'm up to my ears in owls and I just cannot dealio with that request right now. Okay. Who remembers the story I told when I first came in here and I was like, oh my God, this week, aha! How did you guys feel after I told that story? You could feel relate, and were you feeling like really stressed? Were you like, oh my God, yeah, that sounds bad? Okay, so what if I came in here and I'm going to tell you a different story? Okay, pretend I just got here. Oh, I'm still on the screen. I should have come from that way. Okay, wow, you know what? I'm so excited to give this talk because I really had a stressful week, but you know what? It was a great week because my very best friend delivered twins. And I got to be there and it was awesome. And she did so great. And the twins are so cute. And one of them's named Rex, and we're nicknaming him like T-Rex, and he's really cute. And I'm getting to move in with my boyfriend this weekend. Ooh. So we've been living in separate apartments, like across the street from each other for 2 years, and now we're going to move in together. And so it's going to be really awesome because we're in this house, and it's happening on Saturday. And you know what? One of the tenant I have in this house just told me that she's moving out and the door broke. But I don't care about that. I'm so excited because I've been wanting to sell that stupid house for a year. But the tenant was this old lady and I felt really bad about evicting her so I could sell the place. So now I'm so excited because, you know what? I get to sell this property. Okay. Did I tell the truth the first time? Yes. Did I tell the truth the second time? How do you feel after the second story? My life is pretty good, right? I'm having a great week. Who chose which story to tell? Okay. So I can make myself feel stressed and all of you feel stressed by telling you a story about what's going on. Or I could tell a story that makes me feel good and you feel good. Okay, this one's going to be a quick one. I know it looks heavy. But this is a summary of one of these other concepts that was presented in that mindful self-compassion class. And that was that we a lot of times experience something stressful, or we feel depressed or anxious, and then we think immediately, I shouldn't be feeling this. I have no reason to be feeling this. Look at this person over there who's doing better than me. They're managing a different problem, and it's so much worse than my problem, and they're doing better. Or, I have no reason to be feeling this, or I shouldn't feel this way, or why is this happening to me? We just magnify it by what we then add to whatever it is that we're feeling. And so in this class, they presented the concept of, suffering and feeling stressed and anxious and sad and depressed at times is part of being human. We're actually supposed to feel stressed and sad and depressed sometimes. And everybody feels these things, maybe different degrees, but suffering is part of the human experience. And so what they encouraged us to do, and I thought this was brilliant, is instead of, as soon as you feel like this, oh my gosh, I feel so awful, instead of going directly to, I shouldn't be feeling awful, why is this happening to me? other people can handle this and I can't. They said you have some compassion for yourself and you can use any of the things that they taught you, like I'm safe or whatever. But then they also said that you can just sit with yourself, and instead of getting angry, you can say, okay, guess what? This is a moment of suffering. I'm experiencing suffering right now. And suffering is part of being a human, and it's okay. And this suffering is going to pass, and some other suffering is going to show up, and I'm going to navigate it just fine because I'm doing great and I'm okay. And that idea of I'm supposed to be suffering because I'm a human, I was like, oh, well, wow, that's just like completely liberating, I thought. So something to think about. The reason I put this here is that when I was in my time off, who knows what this is? Anybody want to venture a guess? Yeah, so when I took time off, I went to South Sudan and I spent 5 months there, and this is their labor and delivery. So sometimes there are 3 ladies having 3 babies on these 3 delivery beds. And so, you see what you would imagine to be extreme suffering in a place like this. And you don't, it's really no different. People there are not distressed by this at all, but they're distressed by something else, And we look at this and we're like, wow, they have it so awful. What am I worried about? But it's really not like that. It's suffering is part of being a human, whether you live in a place that you've got to deliver like that or not. Okay, this is a quick one. This is one for you guys to think about on your own. Has anyone ever stopped to think, ooh, I'm 1 minute late. Has anyone ever stopped to think how you got where you are? So most of us maybe went to school, graduated, got a job, got a kid, got a house, got a car, got some kids, and then we're like, is this really it? Because I still feel crappy. And, I think we sometimes arrive at where we are in our lives by following the next logical step instead of actually having a roadmap or plotting a deliberate course. And there's a whole workshop actually that I do sometimes on how to sort of plot a map for yourself. But just, something to think about. Did you get where you are because you made deliberate choices, or did you just sort of follow along what the next logical step was? Okay, you guys know this one. Isolation is very dangerous to the extent that you can connect with something. It doesn't have to be other people. If you're an introvert, it could be with books or yourself or with God or with nature or your pet. To the extent that you can connect with something and feel less isolated in the world, a lot of times that will diffuse any negative emotion and magnify any positive emotion. That's a picture of Axel, who was smiling in the picture before, and his friend Huckleberry. So, right, they're connecting in the field there. Okay, and then the last thing is, this is the very end, I believe. And that is, when all else fails, you can ask yourself, am I okay right now? So ask yourself that right now. Are you okay right now? Yeah, okay, I'm okay right now. So a lot of times especially when we have panic attacks or we feel very anxious or stressed, we're feeling anxious or stressed about what might happen, what could happen, if we do or don't do this or that is going to happen, not what is actually happening. So if you find yourself spiraling out of control, either into a state of depression or a state of anxiety or a state of stress, I would like to propose that one of the fastest way out of it is to ask yourself, am I okay right now? And I promise you the answer will always be yes. Think of your worst moment of your whole life right now. Okay, nobody nobody crack up right now, but think of a terrible, scary moment. Can anybody think of one? And can you think of, in that moment, were you okay? Maybe some crap was happening, right? Some stuff was going down, right? Maybe somebody was dying or something extreme was happening and you were feeling something intense. And were you still okay? I don't mean were you happy, were you, joyful, were you crushing it? I mean like, were you okay in that moment? You were, right? So at any given moment, if we're losing our cookies, this is the answer. Am I okay right now? And that's it. So I have put here, always keep your purpose in mind. And, I said in the beginning, I think kindness is very important. So, I think we feel pressured to achieve and do a lot of things. And I would like to propose that, it's not necessary for us to have great jobs or great families or great kids or perfect hair or learn a foreign language or do whatever. Really, our only purpose is to achieve a state of being in which we can consistently be kind to people. And so if you're trying to, revise yourself or your life or look around at ways to make improvements, I would encourage you to figure out a purpose that resonates with you and then try to just make small incremental changes around that. And that's it.